ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you're ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hello, Becoming Natural friends. It's Penny, and I'm here. I owe you a huge apology. I know I missed a couple of episodes. I am still completely here and engaged and excited about the future of Becoming Natural. Believe me, it wasn't because I stopped working. If anything, I have been working harder than ever. When I started Becoming Natural, one of the things that I loved most about the idea of podcasting was that I didn't have to spend my life on social media, and I could pour my energy into researching and reading and learning instead of wondering what I should post next. I am not a fan of social media, but the idea of having conversations with people who have common interest, that really intrigued me. So over the last month or so, that firm desire to remain off of social media turned into a project that's much bigger than I ever imagined, and it just keeps growing in the best of ways. I have been learning everything that I can about search engines and building smarter systems behind the scenes. Somewhere along the way, my little Simplify My Workflow project became a full-time job. The funny part is that I started this because I wanted life to be simpler in my podcast world, and instead, it completely took over my life for the last month. My family can unfortunately vouch for that. I stay up late and I work all day, and I can see where those late nights have been leading, and I am so excited to share them with you. My hope is that all of this means I get to spend more time doing what I love, which is reading books and studying while sharing what I have learned with you, and less time buried in the behind the scenes administrative type stuff that I can't stand. So I am very excited to share it with you, but I am not quite ready to pull the curtain back. I just wanted you to know that I have been here and I have been working feverishly, and I can't wait to share. For now, I just wanted to say thank you for your patience, for giving me grace to disappear for a couple of weeks unplanned while I studiously worked on something I never saw coming. But holy Hannah, it is coming together in amazing ways. I can't wait. So, alrighty, let's dive into today's episode. Today's episode is episode 82, Natural Bug Spray, Practical Ways to Protect Your Family. And it came straight out of that moment on the back step, the gap between what a label promises and what actually keeps a bite off your kid's ankle and what is also safe for the long haul. If you have ever stood in the bug spray aisle holding two bottles, one that smells like a chemistry set and one that smells like a candle, and felt completely unqualified to choose, welcome to the world. This one is for you. So, we are going to sort out which natural bug sprays have real evidence behind them and how they actually work on a mosquito, how to put them on your kids safely, and when the wiser choice is it might be actually reaching for something stronger. So I'm not going to be shaming the DEET crowd or worshiping the essential oil crowd. I'm just going to be clear and grounded and help you so you can walk outside this summer and feel like that you actually have got your people covered. So grab a chair or your bug spray label and let's settle in. So why is this so confusing in the first place? Let me start in the most ordinary place, the marketing. We all know that the word natural is not regulated in the way that we hope that it would be. It can mean that a plant grew somewhere in the supply chain. It can mean almost nothing at all. So a bottle can say natural in big, calm letters and still be a complete mystery on the inside. So never, ever fall for that tactic. That is the first knot that we need to untie because it's the reason that so many of us feel stuck. We're not actually choosing between safe and natural on one side and toxic and effective on the other side. That's the story that the packaging tells us, and it's a tidy story, but it is not actually how the science shakes out. The real map is messier and weirdly a little bit more hopeful. Some plant-based repellents genuinely work and some don't. And the difference between them is not how leafy the label looks or if the words natural are on the front of the bottle. It's actually whether the active ingredient has been tested and registered, or maybe not. So here's the piece that changed everything for me. In the United States, skin-applied insect repellents are regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. So when a repellent is EPA-registered, it means the company handed over real data showing the product is both effective against mosquitoes or ticks and safe to use as directed. According to the CDC's mosquito bite prevention guidance, the active ingredients with that kind of backing are DEET, picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, or OLE, and paramenthanediol, and a newer one called 2-undecanone, the number 2, and then undecanone, because we can all pronounce all of these so easily. 2 of those are actually plant-derived. Oil of lemon eucalyptus comes from the lemon eucalyptus tree, and 2-undecanone is a naturally occurring compound found in several plants with a distinctive odor that insects dislike. But it is most famously associated with wild tomato plants. And oh my gosh, I love the smell of tomato plant. It smells like summer to me. But this is the part that surprised me. You do not have to leave the world of the EPA, quote, tested protection to use something that actually comes from a plant. A natural bug spray and a proven bug spray are not the opposite in this category. They can be in the same bottle. The CDC is very direct about this. For the long list of unregistered natural repellents: citronella, cedar oil, geranium, peppermint, plain soybean oil, and the pure essential oil version of lemon eucalyptus, the effectiveness of those is simply not known. And I say this with kind of a wink and a smile because for me, I love a research study that's good and proven, but I also like proof. And if you've used something that you know is effective and works well, then I believe you. So these are not proven useless by any stretch of the imagination because nobody has put most of them through the testing. So when you spray one on your children, you are running an experiment with no data, and a kid is the test subject. But I still think that you can run your own experiment with your kid as the test data. You just haven't found the company that wants to spend the money to test for the effectiveness of these more natural remedies. But the proof to me is in the pudding because I do experiments like this all the time. But that distinction, registered and tested versus untested and hopeful, is the whole ballgame. Which one do you want to use? So hold on to that because it's going to make your decision in the aisle hopefully a little bit easier. Before there was a single bottle of DEET that we all hear about, or a whole wall of sprays to make your eyeballs float reading the labels, people still had to live with mosquitoes. Crazy, right? And they were not helpless. They leaned on simple, practical strategies. And the striking thing is how many of them still make sense today, and we still do them. They wore loose, lightweight clothing to keep your skin covered. They slept under mosquito nets. They gathered around smoky campfires because the smoke actually muddled the signals that a mosquito uses to find our bodies. And they learned to avoid marshy standing water areas and to head indoors at certain times of day when biting is at its worst. Our ancestors also reached for plants. Across a lot of cultures, people used aromatic herbs like rosemary, sage, lavender, basil, citronella, cedar, often crushing or burning the leaves to release natural oils into the air. Some rubbed the plant oils or even animal fat onto the skin to help mask the human scent a mosquito's hunting for, and a handful of those plant oils like citronella, lemon eucalyptus, catnip, clove, or thyme have shown some genuine repellent effect in studies since then. The catch is the same one that our great-grandmothers ran into without a lab, to name it. Most of them evaporate very quickly, so the protection doesn't last very long. Simply growing the plant isn't the same as releasing the protective oils that are hidden inside the leaves. And that's the lesson that's sitting underneath all of this. Our ancestors didn't pin their hopes on one magic solution. It was more like a layer of habits that they put together. You want to cover up, you want to get rid of, standing water, you want to pay attention to the time of day, and you can also use what the garden offered. And many of those same strategies are still some of the smartest first lines of defense that we have today. So we're going to build on exactly those ideas and go from there. But I'm going to take a tiny detour into the mind of a mosquito. To understand why some sprays work, it helps understand exactly what we're up against. And I find this incredibly fascinating in a little God built some wild little systems kind of a way. But a mosquito is not flying around looking at you. She, and it is always a she, because only the females bite, because she needs the protein in your blood to make her eggs. She's mostly reading the air. Think of it as a 3-step process. They have a highly functioning sensory system. First, they detect the carbon dioxide. When you exhale, you create a plume of carbon dioxide that can travel 50 to 100 feet or more, depending on wind conditions. So to a mosquito, that carbon dioxide plume is like a giant arrow saying a warm-blooded animal is over there. They have specialized receptors on their antenna called maxillary palps that are incredibly sensitive to carbon dioxide. So that's number one. Hold your breath. You can't breathe when you're outside. Just kidding. So number two, they follow your scent. So once they get a little bit closer, they follow the CO2, they begin smelling your unique chemical signature. And they detect compounds like lactic acid, which comes from sweat, ammonia, carboxylic acid, acetone, and there's some other just volatile organic compounds produced by your skin bacteria, because your skin microbiome, what a surprise, plays a surprisingly large role in the scents that you naturally emit. And number three, they actually use heat and vision. So when the mosquitoes are within a few feet, mosquitoes switch to sensing body heat, moisture, and visual contrast. They tend to notice dark clothing, movement, and warm skin. So it's like they use this CO2 as their little GPS, body odor as the little address where you live, and then heat as their final landing signal. So more heat, more breath, more skin compounds, more invitation. This is why some people get eaten alive, like myself, while their spouse is sitting right next to them and gets one bite or none. And then there are those of us who lost the lottery twice in a row, like myself. Not only do we get the sacrificial sheer increased number of bites, but my bites turn into huge welts. And I learned something today. The itchy bump actually caused by the mosquito biting you is caused by your own immune system reacting to the mosquito's saliva. That saliva contains proteins that keep your blood from clotting while the mosquito feeds off of you. It's really great to think about. But your body recognizes those proteins as foreign, and it releases histamines, creating that redness and swelling and itch. So if you've ever wondered why your spouse barely notices a mosquito bite while you end up with giant welts the size of a silver dollar, it isn't because the mosquito liked you more. It's because your immune system responded more dramatically. And I cannot tell you the nights as a child that my dad every night routine in the summer, because I played outside all day in the summer, barefoot, running up and down the streets until the street lights came on, and I would get covered in mosquito bites. And our nightly routine was my dad getting good old camphofenique and putting camphofenique, dotting them down all my little bitten up legs every night to stop the itching because, how my legs was itch and my arms. I had bites everywhere. So a mosquito will find you by smell, essentially, and that is exactly the door that repellents walk through. So if we're going to talk about a repellent, like the oil of lemon eucalyptus, it doesn't poison the mosquito and it doesn't build a force field. It actually works at the level of her senses. The vapor coming off of your treated skin scrambles and masks those honing skills, so she can't locate you clearly, or she lands and gets a strong dose of something that her receptors hate and leaves before she bites. You become, for just a few hours, hard to read and unpleasant to land on. That is the mechanism. It's not magic. It's called running interference. So the active ingredient in the oil of lemon eucalyptus that does this heavy lifting has a very clunky name with a much better abbreviation, but it's paramenthane 3,8-diol, or PMD. We're just going to go with that because I probably totally butchered that name. PMD. So according to the EPA's own biochemical fact sheet on it, PMD occurs naturally in the lemon eucalyptus plant, and it actually is structurally similar to menthol, which is part of why it has that cooling, sharp botanical smell. So oil of lemon eucalyptus, OLE for short, is an insect repellent ingredient made from the leaves of the Eucalyptus citriodora tree. And yes, there are like many different kinds of eucalyptus. That oil comes right out of the tree. That is not what repels the mosquitoes the most. You got to think about this. So instead, the manufacturers, they steam distill the leaves to obtain the essential oil. They chemically process that oil, and then they convert one of its natural compounds, citronella, into much larger amounts of PMD. PMD is the ingredient that actually does most of the mosquito repelling work. So if you think about it like this, we have the tree, which becomes the essential oil. Then it is processed into oil of lemon eucalyptus, which becomes high PMD content, which becomes the insect repellent. And this is the cleanest way I can draw the line for you between two lemon eucalyptus things that get confused constantly. So the oil of lemon eucalyptus, OLE, that is the registered repellent built around PMD. It's tested and it works. Pure lemon eucalyptus essential oil, the little amber bottle on the wellness aisle, is a different product. It's not the registered repellent, and it has not been shown to protect you. Same tree, maybe the same outcome, but it is not the same as OLE, and mostly because the concentration of the OLE is much higher. So keep that in mind. They are the same, but they're not the same. Does this natural option actually work? So I'm going to hand you a little bit of research. Hold on real tight because it's better than I expected. There's a set of field trials that are documented in the National Institute of Health Research Library, done with real people getting real exposure in Guatemala and Peru. And a plant-based repellent built on PMD from lemon eucalyptus was put up against DEET out in the field, where mosquitoes are thick and the stakes are high. And in Guatemala, the PMD-based repellent gave better than 98% protection for 5 hours. And in Peru, it held around 95% protection for 6 hours. And in both places, it actually outperformed the DEET products it was tested against. Well, that is serious protection from plant-derived active product. Now, of course, that should be no surprise to us that plants work, but that has some research behind it. There's also a careful study published in the Journal of Scientific Reports comparing PMD and DEET head-to-head. And the short version is, in the controlled lab setting, DEET edged it out just a little bit, but out in the real outdoor conditions, over about 6 hours, PMD and DEET performed similarly against biting mosquitoes. So the picture that emerges from the research is consistent, and it's encouraging because you can use this natural oil of lemon eucalyptus. If used correctly, it lands in the same neighborhood as DEET, which is a synthetic chemical that has some potentially serious side effects with our nervous system, for everyday protection. So yay. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. When A tired mom asks me, does natural bug spray actually work? The fair answer is some actually do, and we have the data to prove it. So oil of lemon eucalyptus, the EPA-registered kind built on PMD. The trouble was never that natural can't work. Sometimes the trouble was that we were grabbing the untested bottles and assuming that they were all the same. And as an aside, oil of lemon eucalyptus is not always the right tool for a situation. The research gets OLE, closest to DEET, and it's the everyday backyard, evening on the patio mosquito protection. But when you're talking about heavy tick country or traveling to places with malaria or the dengue fever, the calculus changes just a little bit. And we're going to talk about that too, because protecting your family requires a little bit of education and some choices that you have to make. One thing that you always have to look at, people will say, oh, that natural spray didn't work. Well, sometimes the product was just fine, but it was actually the way we used it that let us down. So this section is kind of the heart of the episode, because no matter what product you use, you have to reapply every couple hours. And the practical how, straight from the EPA's guidance on using those repellents safely and effectively, matters. First, you have to read the label before you spray anything, because every spray is different, and actually do what it says. I know it's a very riveting read, but the label tells you the concentration and how long that protection lasts from that specific bottle and how often to reapply, and those numbers are different for every single product. The whole reason an EPA-registered product can promise a protection time is that someone tested it. So when you ignore the label, you throw that testing away and you're back to guessing. So when you're reading the label, look at the concentration, because it changes how long you're covered. With oil of lemon eucalyptus, products tend to buy you a few hours of solid protection, long enough for a cookout, maybe not long enough for an all-day event without a reapplication. The higher application or the higher concentration generally means longer protection, not stronger protection. So that is a distinction worth holding on to. Remember, we said there's oil of lemon eucalyptus oil that you can get at the store, not nearly as strong. So you may just have to apply it more often. You're buying more time, basically, when you have stronger protection, not more of a protective field. Match the concentration to your outing. Quick walk to the park is different than going 6 hours at the lake. Number two, you want to make sure that you reapply on a schedule. A lot of natural repellents, oil of lemon eucalyptus included, have a strong botanical smell that fades faster than the protection does, or sometimes faster than you'd like the protection to last. So we smell it wearing off and we reapply, or we stop smelling it and assume we're fine. Go by the clock that the label tells you, especially if your kids are sweating, swimming, toweling off, water, and obviously friction, wiping it off. Take it right off the skin. The EPA's guidance is clear and practical. For little ones, you spray the repellent onto your own hands first, and then you smooth it on to them or to their face, carefully avoiding their eyes, of course. You want to keep their hands off of it, because those hands are going to go straight to their eyes and to their snack food and right into their body. And that has those rules for those reasons. The most important safety note is oil of lemon eucalyptus and its active PMD are not proven safe for your littlest ones. Listen closely. This is echoed in both EPA and CDC guidance if you base your studying off of them. It says that products with the oil of lemon eucalyptus, or PMD, should not be used on children under 3 years old. This is not because they have proven that it causes harm to your children. It is because there are not enough studies on young children. That's a call for mom and dad. It has not been proven to work. It has not been proven to not work. They're just saying, hey, we're not telling you to use it because we haven't seen the studies. I want to generally push back a little bit on the worry about reaching for picaridin or DEET, because it does not make you worse or less natural, because it could be a good choice in the right circumstance. And I want to free you from the guilt on this. So we're going to approach it logically. DEET is a man-made chemical that confuses insects. Okay. And what it does is it doesn't actually kill a mosquito or a tick. Instead, it makes it difficult for them to find you, kind of makes you invisible. Mosquitoes locate us, like I said, by sensing the carbon dioxide first, then our body heat, the chemicals on our skin. DEET interferes with those signals. So it's almost like putting a do not disturb sign around your body. And if your body is a radio station broadcasting, here is a human, DEET scrambles that signal so the mosquito cannot tune in. DEET was actually developed by the U.S. military in the 1940s after soldiers needed better protection from insect-borne diseases during jungle warfare. So today, it's one of the most thoroughly studied insect repellents available. DEET does act on insect nervous systems by disrupting how insects detect their host. At the very high doses associated with accidental ingestion or improper use, DEET can also affect the human nervous system. Rare case reports have described seizures or other neurologic effects. So this is where the DEET concern has entered the bug spray world. It's synthetic and it's chemicals, and there's always risks. Picaridin is also a man-made insect repellent, but it was designed to imitate a natural defense chemical found in pepper plants. Like DEET, it does not kill insects. It simply makes it harder for the mosquitoes and the ticks to recognize you as their next meal. Many people like picaridin because it has very little odor. It doesn't feel as oily on the skin. It doesn't damage plastics, sunglasses, watch bands, things like that, in the way DEET can. And just for that little comment there is why I would steer clear of DEET, because if something can damage plastics and sunglasses, I probably don't want that on my body. So the picaridin provides protection that's often comparable to DEET against mosquitoes and ticks when used at similar recommended concentrations. The distinction to help you understand why applying them correctly and reapplying when needed is so important, because the goal is not, as you can see, eliminating insects. They're still going to be there. We're basically just hiding ourselves. It's to reduce the chance that they're going to find us. We're recommended specifically because they protect against mosquitoes and ticks that really carry, really big diseases like West Nile or Lyme and others that can genuinely hurt your family. So think about it less like natural versus chemical and more like what's the right tool for the right setting. A backyard cookout on a mild evening. Oil of eucalyptus is a wonderful evidence-backed choice, but also burning different types of scents and herbs or making sure, things are good in your backyard helps. But then if you hike through tick-heavy woods, go on a camping trip, travel somewhere with mosquito-borne illness, that's when the picaridin or DEET applied carefully and by label is a protective option. Choosing the stronger option in those moments isn't a failure, but stating the obvious, if you're hiking in the backwoods of Africa or even America, more than likely you're wearing long sleeves and pants. So spraying either the spray on your clothes versus on your skin provides the same invisibility, so to say, and it can be safer to spray it on your clothes than on your skin as well. But we're going to build a little bug protection plan. Even though we have bug spray, which is maybe a great one, there's more than one layer that actually helps. The families who get bitten the least are the ones who stack a few simple, regular habits. So you want to start with your yard because some of the most effective mosquito control isn't found in a bottle. It's found in a 5-minute walk around your yard. If a mosquito could design her dream neighborhood, it wouldn't be full of flowers. It would be full of standing water. A flower pot saucer you forgot to empty, the bucket beside the shed, a bird bath that hasn't been refreshed, or an old tire. Who has an old tire collecting rain? Even dog bowls. Think about that. Clogged gutters after a storm. That's a sneaky one. Or kids' toys that have been left upside down in the grass. Anything where water could collect. A mosquito does not need a pond. Many species can lay eggs in just a few tablespoons of water. So what looks like nothing to us becomes an entire nursery in under a week. And while you're walking, notice the shady, damp corners too, like overgrown shrubs, thick ornamental grasses, or dense ivy. Those cool hiding spots are where mosquitoes rest through the heat of the day before they come out to feed at dusk. Then There are gardens. You've probably heard that marigolds repel mosquitoes. I've heard that forever. Everybody's thrown me every suggestion in the world to prevent mosquitoes. There's a little bit of truth there. Most plants don't throw up this invisible mosquito barrier just by growing in your flower bed. It's the oils that are inside the leaves. They usually have to be crushed, though, and brushed against or released into the air before a mosquito even notices them. It doesn't mean that plants have no role. I've seen it where you can wrap herbs with a rope. You can tuck them in outdoor living spaces because they're pretty, they're useful, they smell wonderful. When you brush past them, you can throw them in your fire if you have a fire going. Lavender, rosemary, basil, lemon balm, and citronella grass all carry these aromatic compounds that mosquitoes don't particularly enjoy. But one of my favorite surprises is catnip. It contains a compound called nepentylactone. That compound, researchers have found, can repel mosquitoes in laboratory studies. Also, I can't promise your backyard goes mosquito-free if you have catnip, but you may gain a few kitty cats. Here's something even more effective than trying to repel them, though, is actually think about inviting the mosquito enemies. Dragonflies are incredible mosquito hunters, sometimes called the mosquito hawks of the insect world, because they eat mosquitoes both as underwater larvae and flying adults. Swallows, they swoop through the air catching insects, and a single bat can put away hundreds of insects in a night. But the more balanced your backyard ecosystem gets, the less you're going to lean on a spray bottle to solve every problem. You're going to have all these different layers that help you prevent having the mosquitoes there in the first place. And there's something just really biblical about all of it. In Genesis, God placed Adam in the garden to work it and care for it, and stewardship was part of the design from the very beginning, and caring for what we've been given, right down to the forgotten corners of the backyard, is so often where prevention begins. The simplest change can make the biggest difference. If you hold on to any lesson from all of this, remember that mosquitoes don't need a big pond. They just need an opportunity. Once you've taken away the opportunity, the next layers go on you. Dress for it when you can. Loose, long-sleeve shirts and pants give mosquitoes less skin to find, and loose matters because they can actually bite right through the fabric that's stretched tight against your skin. For serious outdoor time, camping, hiking, long evenings, lean harder on the barriers instead of stronger chemicals. Tuck pant legs into your socks. Choose lighter colors so anything crawling is easy to spot. And drape netting over a stroller or a carrier for your little ones. Then time your outdoor time with a little bit of awareness. Most mosquitoes are active at dawn and at dusk, so that's when your repellent and your long sleeves earn their keep. So keep door screens in good repair. You don't want them sneaking through your screens, so the house stays a safe zone. And run the air conditioning or a fan on the porch. A fan is an amazing treatment for mosquitoes. Coming from one who gets bit all the time, I always sit by an outdoor fan because mosquitoes are actually very weak flyers, and a little breeze throws them off completely. They can't get to you. Underneath all of this, all of the spray bottles, there's something that I don't want to rush past. But when I stood on that back step feeling like I'd failed my poor little child over those little mosquito bites, the feeling was way out of proportion to the welts. It wasn't really about the bites. It was about wanting to cover my people and not being sure that I knew how, and the confusion of all the information that we get about what is safe and what isn't safe. And I think that a lot of motherhood lives right there in the ache to protect, tangled up with the worry that we're getting it wrong or we don't know. And there's something really empowering in remembering that the body that you're trying to protect was made on purpose. Scripture says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think about that even with something as small as a mosquito bite on our skin, which is an organ. This is our living barrier that God designed. The way a child's body is knit together with such care, stewarding that body, learning how to actually guard it, paying attention to the small stuff is a tender form of love. And all that sounds so gooey until you wake up one day and the three little humans that you protected 24/7 for years became adults or I can still say adultish. And in hindsight, rubbing my kids down with bug protection was just such a sweet moment, because how many moms do you see rubbing their 21-year-olds down with bug repellent? Not such a sweet image. So protecting your family from bites can be just a small, faithful act of attentive care, not hovering, just sweet attentive care. You're not trying to control every variable or build a perfect sterile bubble for them to live in. We don't want it to be sterile, remember? So you're just paying some attention to the people in front of you and doing the next wise thing. And that is enough. I'm going to close and give you some quick answers to questions I've gotten. Does natural bug spray actually work? What do you think the answer is? One does, with real evidence. The oil of lemon eucalyptus, the EPA-registered repellent built on PMD. So we have the field research that shows that it protects better than 90% of the time for several hours, which is the same range as DEET. So yes, it works. The other natural sprays like citronella or cedar or peppermint, plain essential oils, they've not been tested enough for the CDC to vouch for them. So treat those as your own experiments, but not as formal, reliable protection. And citronella candles, which we all have probably in our backyards, yes, they can work, but probably not as well as we've been led to believe. They can reduce mosquitoes right around the candle area, especially on a calm evening, but they cannot create an invisible force field around your backyard. The citronella oil simply disperses too quickly, especially if there's any breeze. If I'm sitting on the patio, I would rather have a fan blowing than rely on a citronella candle. Mosquitoes are those weak flyers, so that movement keeps them from getting to me. Is oil of lemon eucalyptus safe for kids? Age line matters. Products with oil of lemon eucalyptus or PMD should not be used on children under 3 years old per the CDC. But that is because there have not been any studies on babies and toddlers under the age of 3 to say whether it works or it doesn't work. So there is no proof for or against it. How often should you reapply? You should definitely look on the back of the label, because every can has a different strength. And the strength does not mean a better force field. It means they last a little bit longer. What about ticks? Big question, especially with increasing talk about tick disease. Some repellents are labeled for ticks and some aren't. So this is exactly what the EPA search tool is for, a filter for tick protection. Specifically, you must dress in long sleeves with pant legs tucked into your socks in lighter colors so a tick is easy to spot. Always check those tight waistlines and tight places, and do a careful, thorough tick check on everyone after any wooded hike. And that means between the legs, behind the ears. They are sneaky little boogers because they are a different and serious game. And do those wearable bracelets and clip-on gadgets work? That's the question. Those little guys tend to work to protect the patch of air right around that device. So that's really not a whole lot of protection. So maybe your wrist is protected or your ankle is protected. So I wouldn't count on them. Bringing it all home, we started on my back step with a mystery bottle and bites on my son's tiny little ankle, and a question of, does natural bug spray actually protect my family, and how do I use it? And the answer turned out to be more freeing than I expected. Yes, a natural option really does exist, and it works, and it's proven by research. There are probably many more things that work that just don't have the research behind it, but the oil of lemon eucalyptus is the EPA-registered repellent built on PMD with existing field research in Peru and Guatemala, showing that it rivals DEET for everyday protection. The bottles that let us down weren't the natural ones. They were the untested ones. Your one next step, the thing to do this week, is just pick a single repellent or look at the repellent that's in your house and read the labels and see what is actually in your products. DEET is definitely still alarming if it can change plastics and things like that. Oil of lemon eucalyptus for everyone 3 and up, picaridin, is also synthetic, but when you're in tougher territory or protecting your under 3-year-olds, you need to be sure you know what is in that bottle and actually read its label so you know how to apply it and how often to reapply. And then add the easy free layers, like tip the water when you see it in your backyard, or throw on loose long sleeves at dusk, fix your screen. That's just all very simple stuff that just becomes part of your habit. But give yourself big time grace, because if you've been spraying, like me, lemon scented hope for years, you just did the best that you could with the information that you had. Now you have better information and you get to walk outside tonight a little bit more equipped and a little bit more aware. And that's how this whole thing works. We learn, we adjust, and we keep showing up for our people. I think the most amazing thing that I took away from all of this is building those layers and building an environment that attracts the predators to mosquitoes. Look for plants that attract dragonflies. Build a fire that has a lot of smoke. If you're in a smoke pit, put those smelly herbs in there to help increase the scent around you. There's all different layers, and I think every layer, the more the better, especially for someone like me who gets bit all the time and I get those huge welts. If this helped you, would you do me a small favor and share it with one other mom who's standing in that bug spray aisle right now feeling completely unqualified to determine what is best for her family? That is how this little show grows, and it means the world to me. In the meantime, you can go back and check out episode 34, Valuable Sunscreen Safety. It's from May of 2025, where we're staying in the world of summer skin and talking about sunscreen and what's actually in it, what to look for, and how to protect your family's skin without the same overwhelm as bug spray. It'll pair perfectly with today and hopefully make up for my lost time organizing and designing something great that is coming soon. Until then, go enjoy that backyard, tip that flower pot over, and let the evening be a great one. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.